Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we are here again with the top 100 soccer card items auction off this week on the PWCC platform. We do this every week, so if you enjoy them, make sure to leave a like. Also, we'll be uploading more going forward. I've sort of been lacking as of late, but I definitely have a lot of things I want to do, so just throwing that out there as well as a little teaser. But yeah, with that said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Also, do leave a like if you enjoy it, appreciate it greatly. But let's hop on over. So as always, start from the bottom, go on up. We start with 1944 Moreno, notably at $174. It was a pretty loaded auction this week, so we'll have a lot to go through. We saw another one last week from this set. Can't remember the player in particular, but a pretty nice release. Also sort of cartoony, but at the same time, you know, people do enjoy that. Early on, you can't be as picky. But yeah, cool Jan Moreno, and one of the most notable players of pre-war / during war. So next to that, we have an Ardat Stanley Matthews PSA 7. Looked this one up just because this is it's like one of the first cards that comes to my mind when I think of 1930s soccer. So I feel like it's pretty notable in that regard. Also, PSA 7 is a pretty decent grade. Average grade's around a 5 or 6. This 7 goes for 174. As far as where it's been, you know, 240 before that, 175, so all within the range. Prior, it peaked at 500. Mostly, I mean, only one sale ever at 500. Mostly 360, so down probably 50-60% from the peak. In 2020, though, was a $50 card, so still up a good bit since then. You know, 3-4X is typically what I sort of notice on a lot of this stuff in vintage that's pretty widely coveted. A 3 to 4X isn't crazy from pre-soccer boom to now. We have a Jarzinho PSA 7. It goes for 180. That's also something I've noticed a lot lately. We've seen some of the, you know, I guess not the main stars, but sort of the second tier stars getting auctioned off in high grades, and you'll usually see that go for 150, 200. We'll see a couple more here in a second. We have a Grinch up here. This is a Maradona puzzle piece. Basically, you got to put the 4 together. Goes for 180. It feels a little high personally. I also don't like puzzle piece cards or stickers and PSA slabs. It just looks very clunky. But that goes for 186. I did bid on this pack. If you guys saw recently, I bought some of these packs, and if I can find some at decent prices, you know, I'll throw in a bid. This was definitely a fair price, but I focused on something else later in the auction, so we'll talk about that. Did some research on this Pele. I didn't know what it was originally when I went through this auction block, but apparently it's a Mexico set where an Argentinian team, I can't remember which one, along with Santos, went to Mexico, and they played 3 other Mexican teams, and so there's kind of a set of this, or at least recognizing this moment, and Pele has 8 different pictures in it himself. He has basically his own page on it, and this is one of the 8. One of the better looking ones in my opinion. So 192 for that. The back is pretty busted. I probably shouldn't have clicked on it because you could trust me, but I'll show it anyways. You know, definitely removed, so there's no question there. But pretty cool Pele, and 190 for what is, you know, something. Typically, whenever I don't know something, I just go to the Vintage Soccer Discord, link down below if you want to check it out. But I just go there, I type it in, and if I can find results, great. I only found one time this was even mentioned, and so, you know, for that reason, it seems pretty rare and maybe notable in that regard. And not a lot of Mexican releases, at least as far as I know about, so, you know, pretty fun one there as well. The first of many Messi rookies here, we have a BGS 6.5 of the white Campione. So this goes for 200. We'll see many, many more. Generally, the PSA 1 sold decent. The BGS slabs probably sold a bit low, but there was just an absolute load on this auction block, so, you know, that's to be expected, to be honest. You can't auction that much stuff off on a site like PWCC, not to, you know, diminish PWCC, but maybe on eBay you can get away with it because there's, you know, tons of eyes. Here you have to be a little bit more picky. Stanley Matthews PSA 8, so this is another Stanley Matthews rookie. You know, these tend to be graded higher. This is more so an average grade, but goes for 200 there. We have a UK Traditions Ronaldo there for 204. Crazy to me that these still sell for this well, but it is what it is. Comps sort of live on and people go off them. We have a 1970 Puskás PSA 8 that goes for 210. We have a 1902 Billy Meredith here, the Willis Cigarettes SGC 1 that goes for 210. Pretty decent back from what I remember looking at it. We have a 2004 BGS 7 Catalan that goes for 216, next to a green 7.5 that sold for 228. That was something that I sort of noticed throughout the horde of Messis that we'll see in a second. The greens typically sold maybe even a little lower than the whites, which I find interesting. You personally, I tend to like the greens more since they're harder to grade, but at the same time, I do sort of concede that I think the whites look really good. I mean, you have the 71 bis sort of, motion going on there of what he's doing in the picture. You have an autograph too, which obviously, not a real autograph, and it doesn't even look like what he has nowadays, but, just being, I guess that's sort of the top part maybe, but just being able to, have him in the 71 bis position along with a signature does look really good. So I can sort of see how maybe over time, the white becomes just as preferred as some of the others. I wouldn't, totally be against it, but I did find that interesting. In between them, we have an aqua green electric refractor of Jude Bellingham out of 150. We then have an out of 25 Jude insert from the Topps Chrome set going for 240. In this, I thought that this foil was a steal. We'll see kind of confirmation of that in my opinion later, but a BGS 8 for 230. I actually didn't have my eyes on this, but I probably would have thrown in a bid at that point. Typically these go for a good bit more, obviously BGS slab, but personally I don't diminish BGS that much. Above that, Zinedine Zidane, PSA 10 from the 1997 Panini Calciatore. Pop 1 of 3 goes for 240. We have a Neymar sticker auto from 2019, goes for 250. We have a BGS 7.5. See, that's sort of the thing, is like 2 7.5s of the white going for more than the green. Kind of crazy, but it happens twice. Above that, we have a Xavi PSA 9 that goes for 252. So we've seen the Iniesta and the Xavi both sort of dip below 200 at a point in time, and now they are seemingly above that, 250 on this sale, but obviously each sale is a little different. 1982 chocolate Maradona, basically, some sort of set where he was released with chocolates, which is presumably why the staining is so harsh. But yeah, I don't really see this all that often. Moderately recently graded. I mean, 70 million isn't anything crazy. And obviously being able to find a rare Maradona, or at least, given the PSA pop 1 of 2, none higher, you would think to be rare. I haven't seen many of these, so that's a fun one. A Cafu and Roberto Carlos, 2022 out of 25 dual auto. I find this kind of funny because they both absolutely butchered their autos in the 2014 Prism set. Cafu had like a blue ink pen that was just out of ink entirely. It was terrible. Maybe it was black, but it was just god awful. And then Roberto Carlos had like a too thick Sharpie where he couldn't even do his auto. It was just a terrible combination. But they sell for a decent price together in this 2022 Topps Chrome. Above that, we have a 2014 Sticker Heung-min Son. PSA 10 goes for 264, pop 1 of 1. Really like the look of it. I can't, speak too much in terms of, how plentiful the sticker is or isn't. But that is a fun Son at a pretty decent price, I would say. Collectible, 250 isn't anything crazy. We have an Iniesta PSA 9 that goes for 264. So him and Xavi basically hand in hand. We have a Holland rookie out of 75 Sapphire for 276. People don't really like the Topps Museum set. Personally, I don't think it's too bad, but at the same time, I understand the discount. It's more of a premium feel though with the thicker cards, but at the same time, it just looks a little unconventional, so I don't think people really take to it. Then we have a 1981 Diego Maradona Football Superstars. PSA 8 goes for 288. You see these a decent bit, but this isn't high grade. And in the row also, we have a PSA 1 of a 1978 Crack Maradona. Personally, I'd take the Crack over the PSA 8, but that's just me. I'd also take both of them over the Erling Haaland Topps Chrome base PSA 10. Keeping it moving, we have an Oleg Blokin, a 1975 Panini Calciatore PSA 8. This goes for $312. I wanted to look it up because you don't really see this all too much. Also confirmation, there was only one of the Maradonas that I could find. But for the Oleg, basically, we have $312 for PSA 8, a 6 went for $34, which comparatively seems insanely cheap. A 5 also went for $84, so that seems really high. But all in all, last PSA 8 went for $630. This one goes for $312, so down quite a bit on that one. This is a sticker that if you're a Ballon d'Or rookie chaser, that you would end up needing if you're building that set. So pretty high grade there, just pop 1 of 11, 2 higher, so relatively plentiful, but not too plentiful. Next to that, couple Erling Haalands, your choice between a sticker or a base rookie. Above that, BGS 8 Campio. So this is, sort of a steal in my opinion. I think the greens were more of a steal than the others. Here you have a 7.5 blue, which, is only a half grade lower, but in my opinion, people don't pay for the half grades like they should. So this is more of a 7, at least the way I price it in my mind. Having me a ham in the middle, just sort of between two goats. making it a full row. BGS 8 Catalan goes for $336. This was a Roberto Carlos PSA 6, which I did look up because we don't see this that often at this point. This PSA 6 does $336. Last one did $360. Last one before that, $390 and $330. So overall, seems pretty steady over the last year and a half, which is good to see because, there's a lot of uncertainty around 90s Brazilian issues and just, soccer in general. It's really hard to sort of gauge. So if you have a year and a half to go on and things are pretty steady, it feels a lot more comfortable. And, Roberto Carlos obviously, deserves some respect in his own. Here we have PSA 10 Thomas Muller. Speaking of deserving some respect, someone put some respect on his name in this week. So $348 on this sale. The last one did $144, and this one was actually the one that sold for $240 prior. So whoever bought this in September turned around 2 months later and sold it. Why, I don't know, but one for $240 there, one for $340 now. That person takes home, maybe a $50 profit, happy days. And the person that bought the 144 probably feels pretty good about themselves. 1963 San Giorgio Pele. This is the number 10. There's a number 10 and a number 175. The 175 is more rare. This is the more common. This goes for $360. I looked this one up since we don't see these all that often either. The last three with an eye appeal sticker did $1,000, which is pretty huge, but there was the 175 that did $360 in June as well. So comparatively to that doesn't seem crazy, but this PSA 3 with the eye appeal does seem a little crazy. Keeping it moving, though, we have a 2021 out of 5 orange Messi from the Topps Inception set going for $372. Ronaldo's first World Cup sticker in PSA 10 goes for $384. Above that, we have a John Tigana. This is someone that I was not familiar with before today, but, in doing the research prior, looked him up. One of the best French midfielders for the 80s, played in Ligue 1 for his entire career, but was pretty prominent, like 400 or 500 caps, and played a lot for the French team as well. Pop one of one, just one higher for his rookie here, gets a decent price, which is fun. Always love seeing more on my radar. Above that, we have a Eusebio 1963 Calciatore, goes for $384. This was a little lower than the last sale, which is also kind of surprising since this does have an eye appeal sticker. It's the lowest caliber of eye appeal sticker, but something to note. This one also gets an eye appeal sticker. This Pele from the 1963 Imperia Calcio goes for $384. Always very notable whenever you got colors like that in a card. It's just very memorable for me. We have a PSA 4 Yashin from the 1959 Heinerle set. Goes for $400. We saw one of these recently, a little bit worse off center, but I'm always bothered whenever you have the sort of white peeking in on the left-hand side. It just doesn't look great to me. 1958 Alifa team photo goes for $400 or near that. Not something I'm too fond of at the moment, just because I know the actual Alifa Pele's been dropping, so I don't know if I'd be eager to hop in on a team picture. But if you have one, I know why you'd want to pair it with the other. I can't blame you for that. BGS 8.5 of the white Catalan goes for $400, pretty low price. But again, given the mass sale, then that's going to happen. We have a 1965 sticker Verlag of Gerd Muller in a PSA 7 going for $420. We have what is a pretty sad listing here, 1995 Merlin Paul Scholes, listed as a rookie. His rookie, I believe, is a 1994. There's surely a 1994 Merlin, so this is his second Merlin, and PWCC lists as a rookie, and it's a pop one of one, none higher, so it just gets a lot of bids, I guess. Goes for $430. Even though we sort of are in a collector's market and where people that know what they're doing should be thriving, there still are, nooks and crannies where stuff like this is going on, which is just sad to see, especially since PWCC sort of helped this happen in this scenario. Keeping it moving, we have an 8.5 Catalan that goes for $444. We have a BGS 8 of the blue version for $440. BGS 8.5 for $444, BGS 8 for $444, we'll just keep on going. We have a PSA 8 up here for near $500. This Karim Benzema is a fake. I looked at the back. If you don't know what to do, basically what people think or what sort of seems to be the telltale sign is that if you look at the back, if there's sort of this blemish inside that foot, see how there's that sort of white circle there, that should not be there. And essentially, if it is, that's not good. So at least as far as, people within the soccer sphere sort of think about it. Now, PSA says otherwise, trust who you want. 1963 San Giorgio Bobby Moore goes for $450. We saw one of these sell recently. This is actually pretty recently graded, so I don't think it was the other one that recently sold, but near the same price. Really nice looking Bobby Moore there, and this is sort of a 62, 63 release as far as I'm aware. Also, I really liked the holder on this. I don't know if this is going to be more of a common theme, but if you look, basically, it's sort of rounded on the edges. It sort of seems to be two separate pieces that are like holding the sticker together. It's very nice. Then we have an Erling Haaland Color Blast for $470 next to a Messi PSA 8 for $470, and then we have a PSA 10 2007 Super Football Mexico Messi, which honestly I haven't seen before, or at least, hasn't really been on my radar, but a PSA 10 always going to do good numbers for Messi. Then in this row we have another PSA 10 Cristiano Ronaldo 2006. Kind of surprising that this was, nearly $100 more than the last one. Really thought that this Jude Bellingham looked nice. 504 for a SGC 9 of the Merlin Chrome. Really just like the look of it. The nice defined borders, the gold on gold or gold on yellow. Looks really, really good. But, Jude has a lot of rookies, so I always have to caveat it. And he's, sort of hyped in this market. So you're buying at a higher point on a player than maybe some would like. Then we have a 1975 crack Jugadores Mario Kempes. Pretty rare. This is a second year item for Kempes. We have a 504 result on this one. Last SGC 3 did 372. And SGC 1 earlier this year did 100. So haven't seen a sale in a decent bit and seems to be about in line with prior sales. Looks pretty good as well. Every sale that we saw there was off-center wildly too, so that's pretty much par for the course. And always love the 70s issues pretty much across the board. They almost seem like an entirely, different era, and you can pretty distinctly see it. Then above that, we have another Messi here. PSA 8 goes for 516. This is like a pretty average result. Everything else, a lot of the other ones for the most part were a little low. This is like something you'd expect to see. We have a Neymar auto here from the Contenders out of 25. This is his historic ticket. And this was my win of the auction, a Beckenbauer rookie Bergman authentic auto for 516. Didn't look up comps on the side, but just going off memory, basically the highest these have ever sold for was 2,000. The lowest an auto of his has ever sold for on a rookie was 400, and that one was pretty beaten up, so I was happy with this. I've stumbled my way into collecting some decent rookie autos, and so this was when I was happy to add. The back, obviously, to be expected, a lot of these are removed. Not terrible, but also not great. Not really going to be focused on the back. As far as the front, though, I thought it was a pretty clean auto. There's some streakiness to it, but when you look at all of his autos, I think it's a decent one. And also, the eye appeal of the card itself seemed pretty good to me. Corners are pretty sharp. The color is very, very good. And, in my mind, when I think of what $500 can get you in soccer, and I think about, all the different players and things that I'd be getting, to be fair, that Mario Kempes is sick, I'll give it that. But I don't want anything right here. I don't want anything right here other than the Kempes. I don't want anything right here, We get up a little bit higher, maybe there's some stuff. But basically, in that realm, I think it's a really, really good item. 60 years old. Beckenbauer's, closer to 80. So, with modern players who could sign for 50, 60 years and cards might be bigger then and it might be just, all the rage. I don't really want to go after that stuff as much, but something like this, just an iconic vintage card to me with, a top 10 player of all time, rookie auto. Just was so excited to add this and very, very happy with it. Keeping it moving, we have a 1962 Pele here. Nice portrait shot of him with the chain. Always love a nice chain Pele. Sort of reminds me of like a backwards Hank Griffey in a sense. Also, basically never see chains on anyone else throughout any of these soccer pictures, at least that I can remember. So very distinctly Pele and really, really fun shot there. BVG 6, pop 1 of 2, none higher. We have a PSA 8 Alfredo Di Stefano Calciatore for 564, pop 1 of 2, none higher. Again, very, very high grade. Michael Jordan finds his way on in here holding a soccer ball. Above that, we have a couple more Messis. This one, sort of in, I guess, a little low, but, in the same vein as the rest of the BGS ones we saw. This one, shouldn't even be talked about. And here we have an early Copa. He does have earlier stuff, but 1958 sort of seems to be where you get a lot more plentiful releases, World Cup year, sort of how it works. And gets 690 for a pop 1 of 1, just 1 higher. So fun to see that. Always like seeing new things sold that, haven't really been on my radar before. Above that, we have a Gazzetta PSA 2 Pele next to a 1954 Puskás All Sport Series. Did take a peek at this just because it's one of the more plentiful Puskás's and also in high grade. Sort of messed up the search feature there, but apparently it got it nonetheless. So $750 for this one. Last PSA 7 did 2,000 and a PSA 3 did 240. sort of in that range and smack dab the middle in terms of grading. So it seems to make sense. And pop one of 2, 4 higher. Again, not going to be all that easy and that high of a grade. Then we have a 2018 National Treasures Beckenbauer. Honestly, didn't even know this was going on in the same auction. Pretty interesting to see that and mine both running together. Obviously, high-end releases sort of have a whole tier of their own and a collector base in and of itself. So, that's going to get a nice premium. And BGS 8.5, not bad for a thick card either. Then we have a 1930 Pucelle. Last week we had a Sastre, which someone in the Vintage Discord said was a rookie. I don't know if the Pucelle is, but I'd imagine it's got to be close. I looked at his career, and basically before 1930 they barely even knew how many games or goals he was getting. So if they don't know that, I'm imagining there's not many collectibles. But this one gets 930, a little bit lower I think than the Sastre was, but pretty close still. Really, really cool stickers for 1930 also. I mean, that's very stunning. This checkerboard Mbappe, I did look up, but there wasn't really many great comps on it. It's just kind of hard to tell, but this is practically in line with what a lot of the other ones have sold for. And then we're going to struggle here as we try to look at this PSA 3 Maradona. I'm going to zoom in just because I want us to go through all this pain together. PSA 3, this goes for like 3 times as much as the PSA 1 earlier did. Just after looking at it, it feels like one of those mind trick things where I'm going to look at something else that's all going to be blurry. I mean, the flag's just preposterous. Looking at him is just terrible. And then the cut, too. I mean, the cut is so bad as well. It's thick up here on the top left and then absolutely thin on the bottom left. That is just a rough PSA 3, but still, pulls near 1200, which is pretty good, I would say, relative to what it looks like. We have a Fritz Walter here from, it says 1937. I've seen 1938. I've seen 1940. I don't really know, to be honest with you. But PSA says 3738, and this is, one of the more coveted of, I guess, one of the coveted pieces of German pre-war. A pretty hard to find Fritz Walter Der Kicker. So, looked this up. Basically, the only prior sales were all SGC graded. There was a 3 for 2760. A 4 for 5.1, and a 1 for 500. So a 2 for 1300 feels about right. Fun to see it in a weekly auction as well. Funny that neither the auction or the slab have the first name listed in it. I feel like that's sort of a helpful, keyword type of thing. But nonetheless, 2004 PSA 9 here of the Top Liga foil Monday Chroma. This is why I thought the BGS 8 was a steal earlier, because a PSA 9 is, nearly 5 times the price here at close to 1500. To be fair, hard to get in a 9. These are very condition sensitive, given that the borders are fully yellow and black, and centering's also a problem, so there's just a lot going on. We then have a 94 Fulbito Mario Kempes. PSA 4, this is a pop 1 of 0, just 1 graded higher. I don't know what pop 1 of 0 means, but, just take their word for it, I guess. Pop 1 of 0. 1500 for this one. Prior sales 300, 300, 300, and 150. 150, back in the day, you guys can't see it, but yeah, you can't even read it. This is a SGC 3.5 that went for 151. So obviously, PSA 4 going for 1500, quite the bump up from there. I would say probably 4 to 5x, relative grader and grade and all that, trying to figure it out. 4 to 5x up since 2019 is a pretty big boost, but it's a, pretty rare rookie of Mario Kempes to get also. They did use rookie right this time, so congrats PWCC. Then within all this footballing heritage, Pele, Maradona, hard to find, Mario Kempes, Fritz Walter, all this good stuff. We have a non-associated sticker auto of Erling Haaland for what is $2,000 in a PSA 10. This PSA 3 Pele Aquarella goes for $2,300. Last one was 3 to 3.5 thousand, but this one looks terrible. I won't lie. Like, the perforations on the top look horrible. I mean, the face looks awful. I don't know how this gets a 3, but it does. Next to that, we have Maradona PSA 8. I did look that one up. So here we have what is his, huge up and then decently big down, but this is held pretty well. Last sale was April, 2,700. This one, 2,500 November. Not bad. I guess if we take a, 1 year approach, down 16%, but nothing too terrible. Then we get into the PSA 10s. So these are going to be, lower, typically because you don't see PSA 10s, and when you do, you don't see like 5 like we're gonna, but 3,000 for this one, 3.1, 3.2. Then we have a row of PSA 10s. So these are on the lower side. They also aren't Campios, so that hurts their, chances as well. Typically, like a blue Campio can reach up to like 10, and usually like a white Campione will be 3 or 4. So we see 3 here. This one's 3.1, 3.2. Again, moderately low, but nothing all too out of this world. I feel like PSA 10s are coming back a little bit more to reality, right? A PSA 9 of these, I would feel, would be 8, 9, maybe 1,000. So being 3 times more than a 9 feels more respectable than what it used to be, which was like 20 or 5 to 10. You know, it just get crazy at times. We have a Prize Footballers Holland Gold out of 50 PSA 10 for $3,500. We also have a PSA 9 Estee sticker that goes for $3,600. I looked this one up last couple sales. Actually, I looked up the Monday Chromo. I'd done that out of curiosity after seeing what these were going for. So basically, this one goes for $3,600. Prior was $5,000, basically $5,000, couple packs thrown in there, and then $5,000 again, $6,000. So down a good bit. The Estee sticker, I feel like for Messi, while it is nice in the sense that PSA isn't grading it, so pops are stagnant, it's also hard to get in general. This is sort of, I don't think it's as close in eye appeal to the 71 bis as, you would like it to be, though. It just looks a little clunky with the 2 pictures, at least that's my perspective, but still pretty decent price. Next to it, we have an Eminence Record Holders of Lionel Messi. This is one of the autos that is perceived by many to be not a legitimate Messi auto, in the sense that his auto is very different if you compare it to most of his other autos. So given that, these get sort of a lesser price than some other sets would, but goes for $3,700. Above that, we have an Erling Haaland here, a Topps Chrome autograph for $4,600, pop 1 of 16. Pretty high price again for a sticker auto, but prospecting's all the rage, of course. Here we have a 9.5 Ronaldo for $4,700. Thought that this was a really interesting sale. I thought this was going to go cheap. You could say it did go cheap, I guess, maybe, but this is pretty close to what the last PSA 9 did. And in my head, typically, people are giving BGS a bigger discount than half a grade, especially on stickers. And so only a half grade discount on a sticker feels pretty respectable. I did think it looked really good too. It doesn't look all too wavy. It doesn't look like it's off center. It says 9, but it still looks pretty good. So pretty decent price there. I find this to be interesting to compare to the Messi as well. A 9.5 Ronaldo to a 9 Messi. I think this has to do with just this sticker looking better. I think this sticker looks really, really good. I think it's better looking than the card, which we'll see in a second. And I think that's sort of what's playing a role here, but I could be wrong. Also, Ronaldo has a lot less rookies. That is something that people don't really talk about. They sort of look at Ronaldo and Messi rookies the same, when Ronaldo's are much more rare, relatively. So we have a 1958 Alifa. This goes for $5,000. Looking at the front, looks pretty good. I didn't look at the back. To be honest, I'm not going to. It is what it is. There's a lot of PSA 1 Alifas going at the moment. We have seen one sell in October, November. So 4 in the last, 3 or 4 weeks. One did 5,800, 6,300, 6,800, and 5,000. So this is down a good bit. Before this, they were 10,000, 18,000, 20,000, 21,000. So, but these are ones that, the Alifas really hadn't fallen. It's one of those cards where you're just wondering, like, when or if is it going to drop, because everything else around it sort of has dropped. A lot of Pelés have dropped, but that one's been held up. And it seems pretty crazy, because when I've done my market cap rookie research video, like, the Alifa dwarfs everything by like a wide margin. And part of the thinking would be, well, a lot of people with maybe a decent amount of money have just sort of bought these up. And, I've seen people with lots of them, or at least more than I would consider to be comfortable seeing. Like, whenever people post 5 to 10 of something, I get a little woozy, and I've seen that with the Alifa, and now some of them are starting to come out, and they still pull good prices. 5,000 to 6,000 soccer's no joke, but given where they were, it's definitely down, which is fair. I think it makes sense, and if you're looking for one, this could be a time. But that isn't even the top 3 this week. Most weeks this would be the top 3 instead. We have 3 pretty big hitters. So we have a BGS 9 of the Ronaldo Mega Cracks card. Again, found this interesting because right beneath it, the sticker for 0.5 higher of a grade goes for, just 1,000 less, which isn't a huge gap. Pretty interesting to see that close a little bit, I would say, relatively. Still, though, 5,300 for a BGS 9 Ronaldo. Might feel light, might not. It really just depends on where you're at. If you're a Messi guy, you think Ronaldo's in the dust and he's deserving of this. If you're a Ronaldo guy, you think maybe it's a little unjust and it should go the other way. It's definitely an interesting point in time, and a fun card nonetheless. Next to that, we have another perceived to be fake Messi auto. Again, I always call it a coat hanger auto when it looks like a coat hanger in the L. That is not what you want to see, at least relative to, everything else Messi signed. It always looks really smooth. It goes off to the left. It looks like a little swirl. It shouldn't look like a coat hanger, and that's just clearly what it looks like here. So pop 1 of 1 gets 6,600 PSA 10, which on thick cards again hard to get, but doesn't seem to get the premium. And then finally we have a PSA 10 Erling Haaland gold refractor of his Topps Finest out of 50 PSA 10, gets 15,000. It's a pop 1 of 2. I didn't look it up, but I will just to see if we've gotten it before. I do think this is sold twice before. So we have a here 25,000 and a 27,000 back in 2021 April. So that's like boom times. This is down 40% since then. Somewhere close to that. When we look here, that's the number 14 out of 50, so that does match up with what we just saw back there. The 14 out of 50 prior had sold for 27,000. This is at 15, which, if we're being honest, I mean, Haaland's achieved things we probably wouldn't have thought he'd achieved in 2021. He's done it, but yet it is down. Granted, card market's down pretty heavily since then, so only being down 50% on a prospect, probably good compared to most people. So, but yeah, as the saying goes, one man's loss, another man's gain. So congrats to the buyer there, and congrats to those involved in the auction. Hopefully you got what you wanted out of it, and hopefully enjoyed the video as well. I know I had a fun time, absolutely loaded from top to bottom, so really fun to go through that. Was really happy with my addition to the PC, so happy to bring that home, and yeah, hopefully we can do it again next week. So that's gonna be it for this week's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Of course, if you did, make sure to leave a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. Any thoughts you have, would love to hear them down below. Anything that sold high, low, maybe something you bought, would love to hear about it. And yeah, if you want to see more videos like this as soon as we go live, make sure to subscribe. As always, Discord's down below. Do check them out. And yeah, with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.